Thank you. Good morning. Yeah. Okay, thank you. Okay, we shall begin. So yesterday, we stopped in the middle of page 135. Is above the sixth. There's no numbers here, but it's the sixth chapter. And here it begins to explain Shema. That the first part, Sukkot Zimra, and the brachas before the Shema, that is the Shulchan. But the Shema is the Kisei. What does Kisei? So the first part of this page, it talks about it in a Kabbalistic language more. It's Chassidus, but it's not explaining it, just saying 30 Sfiras, Netzach, just so it. So I'm not going to elaborate on that. And we will begin where we left off, which is the middle of the page. And let's see, let's look at the last word on the line, is where we're up to. Is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. The ninth line from the top. The last word on the line is V'yuridas. So we're talking about the word Shema Yisrael, because that's where it begins. Up until Shema Yisrael is what we call Birchas Kriyashma. Thank you. The brachas of the Shema. And once you say the Shema, that's when you enter the third part of davening, and that's what he's referring to as the Kisei. And what is it? It's about, now's the time and the place of davening where we're hoping that the Nefesh Bahamis will become on fire with love for Hashem. So up until now, we were preparing. We were sort of opening up the Nefesh Bahamis, making Nefesh Bahamis a vessel. Once it's a vessel, and once you have a vessel, then you can pour oil and wine and water and whatever it is. So first, the Nefesh Bahamis has to become a vessel, because before that, the Nefesh Bahamis is just not in tune. We just had a big event this week in sports. What is it called? You walk, there's certain people you can walk over to them and say, so how do you feel about the results? You don't know what you're talking about. It makes no difference to them. It's totally irrelevant. You can't understand how it's possible, but that's the way it is. So the Nefesh Bahamis is that way when you talk about godliness. Same thing. No relevance. It's totally non-existent in this world. There's no what you're talking about. Means nothing. So first we have to lift them up a little bit, take them out of the mud and realize there's something there more than just mud, and there's things that are higher, and all that is just part of making him a keli. Just that he should be open to hear something about godliness. And once he's open, then we can hope that he will be able to understand more, and that knowledge will stimulate love for Hashem. So let's see the words inside. So I'm going to start in the middle of the line with the word v'zeu. Zeu lamed. This is the lamed of the word kale. Remember, we're talking about the word Yisrael. The lamed is referring to the midas of the Nefesh Elokis, which explained before how the number 30 relates to the midas, the emotional attributes of the godly soul. You read as Haneshama, and the reason why the Nefesh Elokis, which is in such a high place, comes down is the Tzerech Aliyah, in order for it to go even higher. In other words, the Neshama accomplishes two things. Number one, it's sent down here in order to elevate the Nefesh Bahamis, to elevate the Guf, to elevate the world around it. And the second thing is, by doing all that, the Neshama itself has an Aliyah. So the Neshama up there is not missing anything. It's connected to Hashem, it's pure godly. The Lashon that we find very often is Haneshama Eina Tzricha Tikkun. It needs no tikkun. It's in a sense in a perfect place, spiritually, the godly soul. So the only reason, main reason why it's coming down is to elevate someone else, to elevate the animal soul, the guf, and whatever it is out there in the world that's connected to me. But by doing that, the Nefesh Elokis itself has an aliyah. It becomes elevated and it becomes promoted, so to speak, to a much higher spiritual level that it never could have achieved had it not come down here. Shehi aliyah, this is the aliyah, the elevation that the Nefesh Elokis gets, is they avodas ha-Nefesh Elokis lamata believe in that Torah. By the Nefesh Elokis learning Torah in this Gashmistic world, ubekiyim mitzvahs maisis, and observing mitzvahs which are actions in the physical world, and by conducting himself in the physical world according to Torah. V'hainu, what this means is birur kol inyani olam, that he's refining all the inyanim of the world. Lasesam kelim lelakus, he's making everything else vessels for godliness. So my Nefesh Bahamis becomes a vessel for godliness, my guf becomes a vessel for godliness, and my surroundings become a vessel for godliness. I don't know if you came across this lashon before, but there's a lashon that's used very often when it talks about what is the responsibility, what is the mission of the Nefesh Elokis. It'll say three things: to elevate the Nefesh Bahamis, the guf, and the third thing is referred to as chelkoi ba'olam, the person's portion in this world. That means everything else outside of my own body and outside of my own Nefesh Bahamis. So that's my surroundings, the house that I live in, the people that I interact with, the place of work that I go, the place that I travel, the fact that I end up going to this country, that country, one place, another place, that's all hashgacha pratis, that I'm meant to go there, make a bracha there, daven there, learn there, and elevate the place. Like there's a story with a Frierdiker Rebbe and his father were traveling. They left the city of Lubavitch, and they were traveling somewhere where it was a place for the Rebbe Rashab to go to be able to rest a little bit. It was a country area. As they're traveling on the road, they see from the distance two Chassidim. They're sitting, and their eyes are closed, and one is talking, one is listening. So the Rebbe Rashab asked him to stop the wagon and told the Frierdiker Rebbe to walk over quietly and listen to what they were learning. Obviously, these were two Chassidim, and they were learning together to hear what they're talking about. So they came back and he said that the Chassid who's speaking, he's reviewing the Maimer that the Rebbe Rashab said that Shabbos. And the other one is listening. So the Rebbe Rashab said, you should know that this spot where they're sitting was waiting since the beginning of creation for 5,600 and so many years that somebody would come and study Torah in this spot and elevate the spot. And why were they waiting? Because not only is it designated in Shemayim how the spot has to be elevated, but it's also designated who will elevate it, through whom it'll be elevated, and when it'll be elevated. In fact, we just had Hayom Yom, was that yesterday or 2 days ago, that if a person walks down the street and isn't thinking words of Torah, then the earth says to him, how are you better than the cows that walk on me? They walk on me and you walk on me. You're meant to walk on me and elevate me. And instead, you're thinking the same thoughts as the cows. So basically, when people would walk through the streets, Chassidim, in their minds, they would think subjects of Torah. And by doing that, just walking down the street, they're elevating the street. So this is Chelka B'Olam. Every person, Hashem put us in a spot in this world, in this country, in that country, in the country itself, in this city or that city, in the city, this neighborhood, that neighborhood, wherever I go, wherever my feet carry me, wherever I am and wherever I have influence, it means that I have something to do to elevate the sparks in that place. That's my portion of the world. And today with Zoom, it's a little bit unlimited. A person could have a good thought, put it on the internet, it goes who knows where, and there's somebody at the other end of the world that's inspired, you don't even know about it, but that means that obviously that person needed to be inspired by me, and that's why it happened in this way. So these are the three things. It comes down to make everything kalim for godliness. V'zehu aleph, and this is the aleph. That in order to accomplish this, we need to be empowered. And the only one who could empower us is Hashem himself, and that's the aleph. The aleph is Hashem, and he empowers us to do this avodah. So the lamed represents the nefesh elokis, elevating the world, and the aleph of that, the lamed, aleph lamed, that's Hashem's name, is representing the Hashem who's giving me the power. And where does Hashem give me that power? This is the oath. And we said yesterday that the word oath, the letters that constitute the word oath, and the letters that constitute the word Soiva, which means to feel satiated, these are the same letters because Hashem gives us the koyach, he fills us with koyach to be able to do this avodah. And where does it come from? So again, that's a Kabbalistic term. It means the light shining from Chokhmah, and Chokhmah is also connected to the Aleph. So what is the intention with this neshama coming down and influencing the animal? So the Seichel Alaki Yiskabel b'Seichel Anushi. I know this means Shesichli Anushi Yekli Lekabel Seichel Alaki. Let's stop right here. So before we had two terms, and I mentioned to you, underline it to know these are two terms. One is called Seichel Anushi, and one was Seichel Tivi. One is the natural intellect, or animalistic intellect, and one is human intellect. And we spoke about the difference, that it's similar to the difference between the intellect of a human being and the intellect of an animal. That the intellect of an animal is really emotional oriented. Yes? What does that mean? Oh, he's calling Rachel. Okay. Well, it was an alarm. Somebody's waking up. Okay.
Yeah, that probably was.
Okay. So now we have the three terms: Seichel Bahami or Tivi, which means animalistic Seichel or natural Seichel. The second one, which is higher, is Seichel Anushi, human Seichel. And the third one is Seichel Alaki, godly Seichel. So the one is the Seichel that an animal has. That's the animal in me. The other is the human Seichel. As we see, there are people who don't have a Nefesh Elokis, but they're brilliant, they're geniuses. These are people who are scientists and they invented brilliant things that have changed the world. So Seichel is not limited to Seichel Elokis. And with Seichel, you can understand Hashem, how Hashem is the creator and everything that he did in the world. So what's Seichel Elokis? Seichel Elokis is something which is limited only to the godly soul. And it's a different quality of Seichel. So just like the Seichel Anushi is a different quality of intellect than the animal Seichel, that's how Seichel Elokis is a different quality of intellect than the human Seichel. which is human intellect, is something which is only within the context of nature, the world, the way we know it. Seichel, key godly seichel, goes beyond that. There's a number of ways that this can be explained. Let me explain one thing. For example, when you learn in Chassidus and you say that there's certain avodah that's l'mayla mitam v'das, above logic. What does it mean above logic? How could there be something above logic? Logic is, there are levels in intellect. We could say that Hashem is infinitely smarter than us. But what do you mean beyond logic? It doesn't make any sense. Exactly, that's what it means. It doesn't make any sense. But there's a mimer from the Tzemach Tzedek where he discusses that there are even Torah authorities who also talk about the greatness of Hashem, and they say the greatness of Hashem is that he's the highest form of intellect that we can possibly imagine. In other words, let's say it says about Shlomo HaMelech that his brilliance was surpassed any intelligent person that ever lived in the world. In fact, it was even greater than Moshe Rabbeinu, even greater than Abraham Avinu. In terms of intellect, no one reached the level of Shlomo HaMelech in intellect. I remember we learned in class that Shlomo HaMelech understood things so deep that he had to explain things to people who are on an ordinary level. He had to bring it down 3,000 mishalim in order to communicate it to them. So he was brilliant. So Shlomo HaMelech's brilliance compared to Hashem's brilliance is insignificant. Hashem is millions and billions of times more brilliant than Shlomo HaMelech, but still somewhere within the realm of intellect, except it's an infinite intellect. But what does it mean, not intellect? We can't even imagine that. Seichel Elokei means to understand that intellect itself is a creation of Hashem. Hashem himself is not limited to anything. And if we were to say that he is the highest form of intellect, even if we were to say that he's the most infinite kind of intellect we could possibly imagine or not imagine, it still limits him by saying intellect. So what is Hashem? The answer is Ein Sof. He is infinite. Intellect itself was created. And all these things that make sense to us logically is because Hashem created intellect that way. Had he chosen to create intellect differently, logic would make totally different sense to us in a whole different way. So that means we're recognizing that there's a realm that's above intellect, above logic, above all the limitations of logic. This is something which will only register in the intellect of the Nefesh Elokis. A human intellect won't be able to sort of accept that, because human intellect is all in the context of logic and intellect and nature, the world the way we know it. It can't recognize something outside of creation, not the way we know it. Yeah, Hashem created the world, but we see a world, and we see this world was created by Hashem. So Hashem is the world in its best form. He's the source of the world. He's the origin of the world. But we can't imagine and we can't think in terms of something that's totally unrelated to the creation the way we know it. So when a person is davening, when we say we want the Nefesh Elokis to have an influence and inspire the Nefesh Bahamis, it's not only that the Nefesh Bahamis should also become excited about godliness, but here, let's say the words inside. HaKavana Bazeh, the ultimate intention is that Seichel Elokei, that godly Seichel, something which is reserved only for the godly soul, and only because the godly soul is godly, therefore it could see things from that perspective. Nevertheless, Yiskabel B'Seichel Anushi, it should register in human intellect. Hainu Shesichli Anushi. So we want that the human intellect, which is found in the animal souls, that's the human part of us, the animal part of us, should be a vessel to accept Seichel Elokei. When we say accept, we mean to understand, and it should register and penetrate, and I should perceive it no different than I understand ordinary logic.
Rabbi Majeski, how Sechel can observe it? Sechel Mugbal.
Well, we just finished saying that the Eibishter gives a special koyach. You're right. Naturally, it doesn't make sense because naturally, human seichel is limited in its limitation, and godly seichel is a different realm, a different world completely. So the fact that godliness should be able to be accepted and absorbed and registered in human seichel, which works with a whole different set of rules, is Hashem's sort of miracle. Hashem gives us the koyach that we can do it. But the way it's done is not through a miracle. We snap a finger, we say a pasuk Tehillim, and boom, it is in a way which follows the natural order that I'm thinking and I'm understanding, and I think about godly subjects in a way that my animal soul can understand. And eventually, I'm raising the bar of my animal soul that it can start opening up and becoming a vessel that godly seichel should register. When I say register, there's sometimes you hear something from another person, which you don't get it. You don't see it that way. But because you respect that person and you look up to that person and you know that they're very smart, so you sort of agree. You agree because you sort of trust. If they understand it that way, it's probably that's the way it is. But I personally, it doesn't register in my mind. So when we say that it should become absorbed and well received and settled and register in the animal soul seichel, it means it's not just the animal soul is being inspired because it hears what the godly soul has to us to say, but the animal soul is inspired because he itself starts seeing things from that perspective. Does any of this make any sense? Do you have questions?
Yeah, Rabbi.
Yes.
I got a bit confused. So just Jews have the Sechel Eloki, right?
Yeah.
And all go and have two, Sechel B'Emi and the Sechel
Anushi, right.
And then we just, the Sechel Eloki is something that helps us to elevate the Sechel B'Emi.
Right, so the ultimate goal is that the Seichel Eloki, the way the godly soul sees things and perceives things, should become accepted in the Seichel Anushi. That part of me, which is Seichel Anushi, should be able to see things from the godly soul's perspective. Yeah. How does that happen? So that's what davening is, by meditating on Hashem and the greatness of Hashem. And in fact, this is the reason why in Chassidus, there's always a mushal of something in the physical world, a mushal with things that we can relate to. The purpose of that is, why all these mishalim is because that brings it down to the level that the animal soul could relate to. So even that part of me that can relate to things that are higher, through the mushal, I can start getting it.
Where this sechel, where we can put it, like if I can ask,
on the map,
put it the godly soul or the animal soul?
Which one?
Where is it coming from? Sechel B'Ami, the Sechel Anushi.
Seichel Bahami and Seichel Anushi, these two come from the animal soul. Because the animal soul is actually a human being, so therefore it has the faculty of intellect, which is so much greater than the intellect of an animal. So you can have people, humans who are brilliant and intelligent and could understand the deepest things in the world with seichel, but it's not godly seichel. In a sense, maybe we can put it this way: God seichel is to understand things in a way which goes beyond the parameters of nature, the world, the way we know it. For example, when we talk about bittul, that the world is really not a true entity, it's always an extension of Hashem. That's something which the godly soul can get. The animal soul can't register that my real true existence is not me something else outside of me, that the animal soul, the logic in the animal soul can register. I mean, let's put it this way, even Yidden, hundreds and thousands of Yidden who don't study Chassidus, and when you talk to them about Bittul, how do they see it? They see there's a world, there's nature, everything has a sort of a system, the way it's running, and this world and nature is under the guidance of Hashem, under the management of Hashem. He's in control. But this idea to say that the true existence of this table is something else, not what you see, that's something that most people, even those who learn Torah, don't necessarily see it that way. It's very hard to relate to that. What do you mean it's not? There is a world, of course. Hashem created the world. It's a very hard concept. Even when you learn Chassidus, it's a hard concept to grasp. But what is the concept? When you look at the world from Hashem's perspective, then you see that everything is godly and the whole world is batal to Hashem. When you look at the world from a human perspective, there's a world, and the world has all the qualities that it has, and Hashem is a higher entity that controls the world, runs the world, and he's in charge of nature. But we're not negating sort of the identity of the world as its own identity. That's Seichel Anushi. You sure you understand? Or are you sure you don't understand? No? Oh, that's Seichel Anushi, you see? You just proved the point. Any Seichel Elokei here that does understand? Not me. Okay. Maybe you can compare it a little bit. It's not exactly the same, but there are people that look at someone, let's say, who made this transition in their life. First, they led a secular life, and now they're leading a Torah life. If you would ask them to describe what's going on, what they changed, what they could relate to is, oh, they changed the way they live. Now they wear these kind of clothes. Now they do this and this on Shabbos. This and this they don't do on Shabbos. In other words, they talk about all the practical things that are different now than before. They won't eat these foods. They won't wear these clothes. They won't go to these places. They won't say these things. But whoever understands what it means to change from a secular life to a Torah life will understand it's not just about the things you do. It's a whole different perspective, a whole different value system. So many things are mamish upside down. What out there is considered like beautiful and amazing, and people are proud of it. Over here, people are embarrassed of it. It's a different way of looking at things. You can't understand this unless someone went through it and is studying Torah and studies Torah properly. Then they can realize that the transition is not a technical transition. It's a transition in the whole way of looking at things, or the whole value system is totally different. It's a different way of perceiving things completely. And in a similar way, there's a difference between Seichel Elokei and Seichel Anushi. Seichel Elokei is a whole different way of perceiving things, even if it's a Torah Seichel Anushi. People who study Torah also have Seichel Anushi, but it's still a different kind of perspective. And the perspective is there's a premise. The premise is there's a world here, and the world has a certain system, and has a certain identity, and Hashem is something bigger that controls it, that guides it, that created it. The understanding that there's something totally higher than that, and the understanding that the real true identity of the world is not what it really seems to be, but it's all godly, the way we understand this in Chassidus, that's Seichel Elokei. Okay, chew it over, especially today when you daven. And you think about it, don't get lost because you have to go back to class at 10:30. But when you're davening, think about it, and maybe you'll get it. Okay, I don't expect that just learning this one time, it'll register. We'll go it over again. We'll soon see more about it. And that's another thing about the Aleph. I will teach you Chochma. Bina, I will teach you Bina. What does that mean? There's a Gemara, a beautiful Gemara in Masechta Shabbos that goes through the whole Aleph base and says that each letter means something. Actually, we pronounce it Aleph, but the letter itself, the way it's pronounced, means something. So what does the Aleph mean? That's the first one. The word Alefcha in Hebrew also means to teach. So Aleph means I will teach you Chachma, I will teach you Bina. Then comes the Gimel and the Dalet. So the Gemara says Gimel is Gemel and Dalet is Dalim. Gemel Dalim, which means give to the poor. And the whole Aleph is every letter. Vav, Hey, Vav, Zayin, Ches, Tes. So the Aleph is Aleph Chachma, Aleph Bina. So the Aleph represents intellect and logic and understanding. V'hainu hameichin the nefesh alakis. So this is alluding to the intellect of the godly soul. Shemechayim es hamidus. They're the ones that give life to the emotion, because in general, intellect gives birth to emotion and gives life to the emotion. Umegadlim umarchivim es hamidus. The intellect, as it grows, the midos grow. The parts of that it becomes fully developed. This is also a term, but I'm not going to go into it because it's not as common as other terms. But it means this is actually found in Tanya, that the emotion are a product of the intellect. The way we feel about things is a result of the way we perceive things. But Alter Rebbe says, where do we see this? Look at children, Alter Rebbe says. Little children get angry and get excited about nonsense. And as the intellect grows, they lose interest in those things and they don't matter anymore. You know, a little baby is crying. One of the ways of calming him down is by squeezing a squeeze toy, right? Makes noise. And the baby's like, fascinated, which is beautiful music. Comes a little point in life, a little bit later, that this music is not going to be enough. It doesn't work anymore. What happened? At night, midnight, 12:30 in the morning, when nobody's looking, the baby goes into the corner of the crib and meditates and says, okay, I'm 10 months old already, 11 months old. I shouldn't be getting excited about squeeze toys. From now on, it has to be something higher. No, that doesn't happen. So when does the change take place? What happened? Did someone talk to the baby and tell him to lose interest in a swinging banana peel or other things that get the baby fascinated? When did the change take place? And the answer is no, nothing happened. The intellect is growing. As the intellect grows, then the quality of the emotions also grow. So when I was younger, I'm excited about things that don't have much value. As my brain develops, I get excited about things that have more value, and things that have no value, I lose interest naturally. So therefore, he's saying that the seichel gives life to the amidas. In other words, when a person is excited about something, it must be that there's something in my value system and the way I perceive it in my mind that makes me excited about it. So seichel gives life to the midas, and seichel grow the midas. They actually develop because the seichel is developing. So first it starts off, like you said before, just with 3, and it develops into all fully grown 7 midas. So now the word kale actually represents the combination of both meichin and midas of the nefesh elokis, the intellect and the emotion of the nefesh elokis. Now the nefesh elokis is sort of armed to go ahead and inspire and influence the nefesh bahamis. Now we said the word Yisrael, there's 2 words. Kale is 1 word, and the first half is Yashar, Yashar Kale. Yashar Kale means Avodah L'Kiz. Yashar means straight. Avodah L'Kiz K'meshi Al Pei Torah. To follow the straight path, which is to conduct myself according to Torah, and conduct myself in a way that it's consistent and it's aligned with Hashem's intention. The Tachlis Abriya, the purpose why He created the world, And he created all the worlds. His Havas Olam, all the worlds. As there's a pasuk that says like this: look, I found this. What did he find? These are the words of Shlomo HaMelech in Koheles. Hashem created us straight. So where does the crookedness come from? But people start searching and making all sorts of calculations, which means initially Hashem created us that we're straight and we could go straight. But then we by thinking into things and trying to not follow the straight path, that's how we complicate things. Asher also Kimis Adam Yashar. Adam, again, the word Adam goes on the Nefesh Olakis. Shenikra Adam. The Nefesh Bahamis Nikra Behema. The difference between the Nefesh Olakis and Nefesh Bahamis is like the difference between an Adam and a Behema. But Nefesh Olakis, the Nefesh Olakis Nikra Adam, and that's what it means. Alakim Asas Adam Yasher. The Nefesh Olakis was created in a way that it's Yasher, it's straight. The Nefesh Olakis Be'etzem Hu Madreges Yasher. What does straight mean? Like it says in another pasuk, Lases as a Yasher Be'eni Emelakecha. Do those things which are straight in the eyes of Hashem. So basically, following Torah, following mitzvahs means it's straight. The reason why we use the term straight means it's consistent. It's aligned with Hashem's purpose. We know there's something called a mission statement, that when you're building a business or you're establishing an organization, you write a mission statement. What's the purpose of writing the mission statement? Because it's possible, and unfortunately it happens all the time, that people establish a business or even an organization with a purpose, and then you get very involved in the details of this, whatever you're establishing. And as you get involved in the details, you drift away and you deviate from the original purpose. And in fact, you end up doing things that undermine the original purpose. To tell the story that there was once a small little shtetl that the children would play in an area where there were cars, and the parents were worried it was dangerous. So they had a meeting, all the families that lived there, not a lot of families, and they decided they will hire a guard, that he should be making sure that the kids are safe. Okay, hire a guard. We have to pay the guard. So everyone's going to pay a certain amount of money. And then they realized with the next meeting that we need somebody who's going to be in charge of collecting all the money from all the parents. So they put somebody in charge of collecting the money. But then we need somebody who's going to be in charge of the bank account, put the money in, take the money out. Okay, so they hired a treasurer who's going to be in charge of putting the money in, taking the money out. And then they hired a president, and then they made a vice president, and they had a whole committee running this operation. 3 years down the line, there was an emergency meeting. What's the emergency meeting? Surprise, we're running out of money. There's a financial crisis. What are we going to do? So emergency meeting, they all voted unanimously to fire the guard. He's the biggest salary. He takes the most money. So the president and the vice president and treasurer and the collector, they're all going to be there. But the guard, one person will be missing. And even because he gets the biggest salary, so by firing him, we'll have much more money. But the whole purpose why he did this in the first place was there should be a guard to protect the children. But what happens is you get so involved in the details, you forget what the whole purpose was in the first place. You know, they say that in Chelm, you know what Chelm is? It's a city that supposedly foolish people. It's really, the whole thing is made up because Chelm is actually a true city and the people there were actually smart people. The real story is that somebody was conducting himself in a very inappropriate way, and he was sort of evicted from the city, and this was his revenge, and he gave them this name as if all the people in Chelm are foolish. But he had some good jokes, and one of them is that the people in Chelm woke up one morning and it was a beautiful, beautiful snow that fell. You know, these really smooth snows, and it's glittering in the sun. And they had an emergency meeting screaming from one porch to the other porch that we have to make a thing. Today, nobody should walk outside because you're going to mess up the snow. And they all agreed. But then somebody raised the problem. We won't go outside. But the rabbi, he has to go to shul. We can't allow that to happen. So they thought about it, and they came to a decision. We'll get 4 strong people to carry him to shul, so he won't step in the snow. What does it mean? It's the same thing again. You get so involved in this project, the rabbi shouldn't be stepping in the snow. You forget what you're really up to doing, and therefore you end up making a bigger mess than if he would walk home by himself. It's a joke when you tell the story in Chelem, but in reality, there are people that have all sorts of organizations, all sorts of sometimes businesses. And the reason why it's undermined is because they take it away from where it's supposed to be. So Yasha means, and that's why there's a mission statement. Listen, this is the purpose. You want to make a decision to do this or that? Stop and think, is this aligned with the mission statement or not? If it is, go ahead and do it. If it's not, then you shouldn't be, no matter how good it is, how important it is, it doesn't fit into the mission statement. So the mission statement of Hashem is we were created for a purpose. The purpose is to transform this world to a dwelling place for Hashem. And that's what Yasha means, it has to be straight. In other words, aligned. Everything I do is aligned with Hashem's kavanah. Whatever I do is going to lead to the purpose why Hashem created the world. Which means, kashanasa hema, the word hema is plural, they. Initially, the neshama would have no problem living a life that's aligned with Hashem's purpose. But once there's 2, which means the godly soul and the animal soul, the neshama and the guf, the nefesh halakis is invested in the animal soul. Now we have 2. That's where the trouble begins. That's when they start looking into all different directions. Again, Rabbim plural, where the person's mind gets scattered, and in a certain way, the person just gets fragmented in different directions. Many different thoughts, that disturb him, and they interfere with his serving Hashem. And they get involved in speaking in a way or doing things that's not consistent with what Hashem wants. But the nefesh halakis in its own right is yashar, is straight. It's later the nefesh bahamas and the guf that bring the nefesh halakis going in all different directions, which is not consistent with the purpose of why it was created. So here's a person that knows I have to serve Hashem. Yeah. The clock isn't working. Oh, it's 5 after 3. I didn't realize. I thought it's 5 after 9. What?
You taught a long time.
Yeah. I start 2:25 and now it's 5 after 3. Sorry. Okay. You're welcome. That was wonderful because
He did come early anyway.